right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Let's start that conversation and take a look at the dailies. My guests are with me one more time here. Dr. Kuro Court, Party Leader, Third Way Alliance. Asante for making time. Reverend Canon Evans Omolo, Provost at the All Saints Cathedral. Asante sana for making time. And Willis Otieno, Deputy Party Leader, Safina. Thank you very much for making time. Let's start off with the dailies here. We see a lot going on. Ruto's olive branch. You see Ruto gives in to Gen Zs. What next, Willis? Is this the turning point?
You know, the first thing that I must point out is that where we are, it is Article 1 of the Constitution, exercise of direct sovereignty by the people. That is in place. Kenya Kwanza and William Ruto do not realize the times we are living in, because they kept ignoring the voice of the people. And the people of Kenya have said we are exercising our sovereignty directly. And that is what we are going through. So you should not even think of offering them an olive branch. You should be asking the Gen Z and the people of Kenya to offer him an olive branch. Power is no longer residing in William Ruto or Parliament or the judiciary. Power resides in the people. And the people normally donate part of that power to these arms of government, the elected representatives or appointed representatives. But what we are going through is that we are witnessing is that the people have gone back to reclaim that power into their hands. When you witness them going into Parliament last week, or this week on Tuesday, they had actually told the Speaker, we are coming. The other week on Thursday, it was about people going out to demonstrate, to express their displeasure with the way the bill was being handled. So they gave out their voice. What Parliament ought to have done was to listen, because Parliament merely represents them. Parliament ignored them, and they said, now we are coming to occupy Parliament. They went out on Tuesday, and they occupied Parliament. Parliament, again, turning tone deaf, decided to forcefully, and in a rushed manner, pass that bill. Now, they said we're also going to occupy a State House. So Parliament, which was the first to ignore them, they have occupied. They have told State House, we are coming to occupy it. It's ours. So State House also has but only to heed to their call. That is why you're seeing William Ruto coming out now with the so-called olive branch. No, it should actually change the conversation to be about, I respect you as the owners of this country. Yeah. I am just but your mere servant. How do you want us to govern going forward? Yeah. This is the state of the nation as I found it. And these are the challenges I'm facing, and this is what informed me to come up with this bill. And you're starting by saying, these are my expenditures. The largest item expenditure of my books is debt. Yeah. 80% of the money goes to debt finance. I'm spending this much on the current expenditure. There's no money left for your development. In fact, I go to the market every day to borrow to eat. And they will tell him, no, we never gave you a right to borrow money to eat. Open these debt books. Because if 80% of our revenue is on debt finance, then open that debt book. Let us know. Which are these debts you're taking? What have they been used for? Yeah. Because as per our law, debt should only be used for development. So the conversation now, we must accept. The horse has bolted. We'll have a national convention, if the time comes, that will be convened by the people themselves to chart the way forward, not by the political class.
Yeah, but Dr. Kuru, isn't this an olive branch extended by the president? He has made concessions. He has agreed to reject the bill. Shouldn't this end at that point? That is what the protesters were calling for. You
know, Trevor, I want to fully associate with the remarks by Wakili Willis. First of all, Kenyans now know if President William Ruto is not lying, he is flying wherever he goes. So even if you look at, for example, his action by invoking Article 115 of the Constitution, that is returning the finance bill to Parliament with all the deletions and whatever. You see, it means what? We are not able, for example, as a country to legislate on the concerns of Kenyans. So Kenyans have said, we don't like this law. We don't like this proposed legislation. Then you are lying to them, saying, oh, I'm returning it back to Parliament with all the deletions. Meaning what? We are not going to have a Finance Act this year. Now the appropriation bill will definitely be recalled. Meaning we go back to 2023. So the question then is, how are we being governed? we are a country of laws. The Constitution is very clear. And like Willie said, and I don't want to repeat, the people are now reclaiming their sovereignty, their sovereign power. And I think the message is very clear to me, if I was President William Ruto. I will say that Kenyans have lost confidence in me and in my government. And after all, we can all clearly see this government in Mesambaratika. It's no longer holding together. Things have fallen apart in this government. So the honorable thing to do, and even as a Christian, as he claims to be, is to resign.
Okay.
As president.
Okay.
And let's reorganize ourselves as a country, because the people now are saying, and you know, what I love about what's happening, Trevor, is that, you know, me as a father of Gen Zs, I'm loving. I was on the streets on Tuesday, and I'm loving the message that's coming from Kenyans. Only a fool can ignore what these young people, our children, are actually saying. And I think the children are telling to us, go back to our traditional cultural, dealing, where we wazee can sit under a tree. Our children come and seek knowledge from us, advice and guidance. Because that's what the Gen Z is actually saying.
Yeah.
Let us take over the country. We just want you guys to guide us. Give us direction. And honestly speaking, I am more than happy to go back to law school, teach law, and, consult.
Yeah.
Probably, hopefully make some money and retire and let the young children.
Okay. Reverend, is it time for us as a country to have a conversation? And what form should that dialogue take? Because when both sides takes a hard stance, it only ends up in chaos.
We also want the Reverend to tell us what the church is saying.
You will tell us just now.
Let me come in, Kelly. Trevor, I think, as my brothers are saying, what is happening now is a clear demonstration that Kenyans have lost confidence, especially in Parliament. Look at what happened. And when the country has lost confidence in legislators, whose major role is representation as they legislate and hold the executive in terms of oversight, it means that there are a lot that cannot be trusted with this conversation. Look at here, you heard what the Deputy President said, that the members of Parliament are merely there as robots to pass what the executive wants. It means they suspend their thinking and allow themselves to be used as signatures to propagate illegalities, yet their role is to hold the executive accountable on every single thing that passes through there. You ask, what should the conversation look like? I would really wish that the president opens up, because now, as we can all see, he's a lion that has been rained on, and it's good that he's conceded, because that has fairly, if not entirely, de-escalated the tensions. He's a lion that has been rained on. He has to sit down now with the people, and now we talk about the expenditure. And Willis has brought that out, and I think Ekuru is going to bring up that more, because the major problem that is hurting this country is expenditure. You realize that we are in conversations on, we collect money, we tax here, and taxation, and over-taxation. Nobody is ready to open a conversation of how are we spending this money. And if we are not ready to open that conversation, look at the levels of crazy expenditure. Look at the extravagant lifestyle. Look at the high-end cars. Look at the establishment in Public Service Commission. You walk in there and you feel like this person does not really see where the country is in terms of expenditure.
But Reverend, he addressed some of those things even in his speech yesterday. He said out of every 100 shillings we collect, 61 shillings is used in debt. And he also mentioned that we're going to cut budgets right from his office, from the confidential expenditure to the renovations, the new vehicles. He said it yesterday.
No, one of the things that I think Kenyans are struggling with, and will struggle with more, is the ability to trust what the president says. Because in the past, such things have been said, and then you see 150 people being ferried to a foreign country on a trip, just surrounding the president, and you wonder what that is. So whether he will live up to that, we'll leave it to be seen. But as where we are, we want to see a clear demonstration that there is practical cutting of expenditure.
Okay.
Look at the Office of the First Lady, Office of the wife of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Office of the wife of the Deputy President. Look at all those. What are those expenditure for?
Trevor, one of the things that Kenyans are asking, and I hope President William Ruto is actually watching this show today, you've borrowed so much, show us the value of that borrowing. You know, what is there to demonstrate? You could easily castigate Uhuru Kenyatta, but you know, people are saying, okay, the expressway was too expensive for us. We spent about, what, 88 billion Kenyan shillings to do it. But today there are people who are saying, this is visible. Tell me any visible project that this president, honestly, has put on the table for Kenyans. It's not. That's a conversation out there. President William Ruto may pretend that he's not listening, but that is the truth. You know, and when our children now go to the street and tell him, go to hell, I mean, I'm sorry, excuse my French, but Kenyans are angry out there. They're actually annoyed, and younger people are annoyed. There is a revolution in the making. Only a fool can ignore what's happening. And I think for me, William Ruto should not be saying, I'm extending the olive branch to Kenyans. It should be the opposite.
Okay. But Willis, what kind of form should the dialogue take? Because at the end of it all, if everybody takes a position that nobody wants to budge, then it's the country that burns. No. Now the president himself has said we want a multi-sectoral, bipartisan.
The country will not burn. The country will not burn.
It is not good.
I've been on the streets with those young people. Since the first demonstration was called, I've been there. Those people don't mean ill for this country. They're actually fighting for the dignity of the people of Kenya. They are simply saying our institutions of governance have failed us. And where we've reached today, do you know why no one will trust William Ruto? The first thing, when you've been wrong, is to recognize. Recognition is normally the first thing when it comes to a question of finding a way forward. William Ruto has not even recognized today that his officers opened firearm. What has never been done in the history of this nation. Young people who are demonstrating outside Parliament, they opened firearms at them. And I'm not talking of 5 or 2 bullet shots. I'm talking of rapid, consistent fire for more than 1 hour. Was being shot at. There's no recognition that atrocities were committed against these people. The people of Githurai, on Tuesday night, went through a horrendous night experience. We don't even know until now how many Kenyans died. They could be in their 20s. Their hearts are bleeding. How are you going to have a dialogue with these people before you recognize? Because you start by recognizing that we were wrong. And then calling to account, accountability. Who was responsible? You saw Rigathi Gachagua yesterday attempting to throw the NIS under the bus. Let me tell you this. What's happening is this. For Rigathi Gachagua, he's recognized what is happening. He's now on self-preservation mode. He's decided by saying the intelligence is responsible. They never gave us a brief, appropriate brief. He's saying we were not given a brief, so we couldn't have planned the killings of their innocent Kenyans. So if this thing was to go to ICC, Rigathi is saying there was never any plan because I never received a brief from intelligence. And whoever planned that thing, it could only be either the security and the president or other people, but without me. So read Rigathi's statement. Anybody by there in the country who listens to Rigathi, read it as somebody who has recognized the center is not holding, and already there may be some plans elsewhere to commit crimes against humanity. And Rigathi is saying, I'm not part of it. They keep me off. So he's developed his own alibi. Him is fled. The rest who are left in there, if you want to still continue going to commit atrocities against your people, I'm sorry, it will catch up with you.
Okay. Trevor,
I must say let's hear Reverend, I'll come to you.
Trevor, what Willis is saying is that conversation cannot happen until certain people take responsibility. And as a minister, as a churchman, I was right at the front line when police officers who were given command by Adamson Bungei and Japheth Koome camped outside All Saints Cathedral, where we hosted over 3,000 young people who sought refuge in church.
I was there.
Trevor, as a pastor, I shouldn't be angry, but on Tuesday, my anger's flared up. and the fuse got burnt.
Why?
Because the last thing you'd want to do is to attack people who sought refuge in church. These are helpless people not armed. In my hands is a spent bullet that was fired inside All Saints Cathedral. The police, we pleaded with them. For 6 hours, I was doing the pleading. So I created with my colleagues, Okinagowi Odera and the rest, a buffer between us. But when the army came, they overran everything. Drove into the church, shooting in the air, shooting on the wall church, shooting on the ground. People are lying flat on the floor, on the ground. This is an evidence. Almost killed people. And what we are saying, and I did call on the Inspector General of Police, that he has to apologize.
So what you're holding in your hand is a cut.
Pass on to him, pass on to him, pass on to him.
No, you just hold it.
I requested
we can get it from you.
The Inspector General of Police to apologize to the church, to apologize to the nations. So that conversation must happen after certain office holders who are responsible apologize to Kenyans. There's blood on their hands of young people who are peacefully demonstrating in their hands, and we cannot go on. We're planning to do a memorial service for those who were killed. And you know, we cannot go on in a conversation when blood is in people's hands, people are chest thumping, and they're not accepting responsibility.
But the president said that they will be accounted for.
He should start, when talk about...
Let Reverend finish. He was right in the center of it. You can put actually the cartridge there so that our camera can pick it. But the president said that they'll be accounted for.
Yes, he did. But has anyone taken responsibility and said sorry? We would want to hear the Inspector General of Police come out and say, I apologize to the people of Kenya because our officers acted in excess force.
Okay. That's what you're waiting to hear.
So Trevor.
Yes.
You're talking about conversation. So how long does it take to just acknowledge that a wrong was done? You see, what really pisses me off as a parent is the fact that we are people who are so pretentious that we are a religious country. Or we have a president who walks around with a Bible, but is unable to say, I'm so sorry to what happened to Kenyans. And by the way, at the risk of really taking us back to 2007, 2008, why should we be surprised? Now the conversation is going back to Kiambaa Church. I was in All Saints Cathedral on Tuesday with these young people.
Oh, good.
I was there, you know, and I spoke to them. Imagine in a church, we are being tear gassed. You know, in a church. Who does that? I just feel I'm so wronged, and I'm feeling as a parent, as a Kenyan, this cannot continue. And I think the honorable thing that maybe President William Ruto should do is to show us, to demonstrate some sense of responsibility. If it is Kome who actually gave that order, or that commander, they should resign immediately.
Okay.
In fact, Kome should go home. The commander of Nairobi, whatever is called,
Regional Commander,
must go home. That is the demonstration that Kenyans want. That is the olive branch actually we should be talking about. Okay. That somebody has to take responsibility. Because so far, they're even lying about the deaths that have happened. We're talking over 20 plus. I mean, a friend of mine called me, knowing that I was coming to this show, and told me, you need to confirm. My brother works at the city mortuary, and they have received so far about 23 dead bodies. So let's stop the lying. I mean, this lying has to stop, and maybe that's the conversation that Kenyans really need to have. I mean, who have we actually installed in our offices today in charge of our public affairs? You know, even as a Christian nation, and I believe we are a Christian nation, religious nation, I mean, can we at least start by speaking the truth about this country so that we can take it forward?
Okay. I'll take a quick break here. When we come back, we're still talking about how this dialogue should look like, because the president is calling for a national dialogue. How should it look like? What form should it take? Who should he speak to? How does it start? What starts, actually? The panelists are saying that it starts with an apology. But there was also a very reconciliatory tone from the deputy president speaking on the same. We'll talk about that shortly, right after this break. All right, keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Citizen Daybreak. All right, see you in just a bit.
Maybe we need to talk about